the Big 12's chances of being a two-bid league in the playoff did take a hit this weekend. Some would say it's pretty much gone. I'm going to show you one person who does say that. I think that is crazy, but there is one thing for sure. And one thing for sure is that we could be in for some epic, epic matchups in the playoff. Okay. I'm going to show you the potential for some of that because to me, the best case scenario for a Big 12 college football playoff team has now been predicted officially by somebody. And I am, boy, let's manifest that. Okay. Everybody do your meditation, manifest that. I will tell you about it in just a moment. So, first of all, a couple of games that could have really helped out the Big 12's at-large case just did not quite go the way that you wanted them to down the stretch. It was a great day of finishes in the afternoon and then the late window that I really enjoyed watching. But, man, Iowa, you had it. My guys, you drove 93 yards in a driving rainstorm with that offense against the Oregon defense. And you scored to take the lead, and then, I mean, look, Iowa went down swinging. They have really good corners. They're playing one-on-one. You defend it as well as you possibly can, and Dante Moore throws literally the perfect ball. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It was a perfect pass to Malik Benson. They hit the field goal. Oregon wins the game. That would have helped. Getting Oregon a second loss would have helped. That would have definitely helped. Throw them into that pot of two lost teams there. Plus, I mean, Oregon still has to play USC and Washington. There's a possibility they could lose one of those games for sure. Honestly, I don't feel like Oregon's going to lose one of those games. That was a tough spot to be in at Iowa, driving rainstorm, totally lit crowd. Like, I think that was a difficult spot to go get a win, and they found a way. So, to me, that was a good team finding a way to win in a really tough spot in a wild college football season, not a team that's really sliding. The other one that could have helped is Vandy losing to Auburn. And, you know, it's such a fool's errand to ever put your heart into rooting for Auburn, expecting them to do that because they are just the best in the country, I think, at finding ways to lose games this year. So you knew that they were probably going to find a way to lose that game, and sure enough, they did. Vandy still definitely could lose at Tennessee to end the season. I think if that happens, because their best win is Missouri, they would not be in serious contention as a 3-loss SEC team. You almost got their third loss handed to them right there. Now, Vandy's already behind Utah in the playoff rankings, so maybe that one won't matter. Maybe. But anytime you can knock an SEC team out, you would definitely prefer that happen rather than not. So there are a couple things that did not help the Big 12 at-large cause this weekend. But, I mean, really the main thing is just the fact that BYU got blown out. The fact that BYU got blown out, didn't look competitive at all. The offense, I mean, I heard the stat. Until the fourth quarter, BYU ran 3 plays in Texas Tech territory. You know, I mean, it was rough. It was rough sledding for that BYU offense. So now the question is, I mean, is there any chance that a 2-loss BYU with a loss in the Big 12 championship game, presumably to Texas Tech, would get you into the college football playoff? I don't know, man. We already saw how BYU was treated last year with 2 losses. I would hope and assume they'll get more favorable treatment this year. They certainly did in the first playoff rankings, being all the way up at number 7. But I never trust what's going to happen to a Big 12 team, particularly BYU, once they lose a game. And a part of the reason, I'll get to more of this later, but a part of the reason that I did say in that postgame yesterday was that BYU, hey, watch out and see if, are they going to drop to like 14 or 15? Part of the reason I said that is because Texas Tech went from 7 to 14 earlier this year for losing on the road at Arizona State with a backup quarterback by 4 points. So that precedent has already been set. I just don't feel great about the treatment that BYU would get. Now, they would need to play, goes without saying, a much better game against Texas Tech the second time around. That would have to be a close game for there to be any shot at that, like any chance at that. All right. But I would legitimately raise that question. Is there enough juice there? Some of it, of course, would depend on what kind of chaos is there. You are definitely going to want to root for Notre Dame to lose More on that in just a moment. That would help a ton. But I think a BYU second loss in a conference championship game to Texas Tech would like really put to the test the idea that you're not supposed to be punished for losing your conference championship game, right? Which like theoretically is a thing, but when push comes to shove and you just say it out loud, would they help the Big 12 championship game loser over like a 3-loss Texas or 3-loss Oklahoma just because of some precedent that's supposed to be out there that you don't get harmed that much for losing your conference championship game? I doubt that you're going to get that benefit, my friend. I sure do. Speaking of Notre Dame, this is one of those things. If you're thinking about, hey, can this league be a 2-bid league? For the sake of whether it would be a BYU losing in the title game, or if it's the sake of Utah now at 13 trying to get into one of those at-large spots without playing in the Big 12 championship game, you need Notre Dame to lose. It would definitely help. It would help a lot. And this is the week, my friends. While Navy was unbeaten, there is one hard truth that I have learned in all my years of rooting against Notre Dame generally, as a Big 12 fan, typically feeling like in playoff scenarios, like it always feels like Notre Dame's kind of a bugaboo there. One thing that I have learned is you cannot trust the service academies against Notre Dame. It always seems like Notre Dame is just clocking them, and that happened once again. So I knew Pitt was going to be the opportunity, but here it is. And by the way, College Game Day, going to this one at Pitt. And yes, if you're out there saying, John, what are you talking about? Like your hopes are Pitt, the same Pitt that I watched lose in Morgantown to 4-6 West Virginia. Yes, that is the same Pitt I'm talking about. Okay. This is the ACC in 2025. Beggars can't be choosers. All right. They've only lost once since then. It was a close loss to Louisville. Pitt has been playing better football. Maybe, just maybe, they can catch Notre Dame on an off day here. Maybe. They're 10.5-point underdogs, but this is like Big 12 rooting interest game of the year outside of an actual Big 12 game. If you are rooting for something as a Big 12 fan, it is Pitt to beat Notre Dame. You definitely want that. And that's why I bring up like this question. And I said, hey, some people really seem to be pretty out on the idea that the Big 12 could be a 2-bid league right now. I don't totally agree with this, but I do very much respect John Wilner from the Wilner Hotline, formerly the Pac-12 Hotline. But here's what he said. If Notre Dame wins out, Utah will need a miracle to make the college football playoff through the at-large pool. And this was all started by a conversation about how the BYU-Utah game went. So I'll show you this interaction here. To create the widest path possible for 2 playoff bids, the Big 12 needed Texas Tech to beat BYU, but not like this. Definitely not like this. So look, I agree. He's definitely right. To create the widest possible playoff path, you definitely would have preferred a close game that Texas Tech wins. All right. But really what this comes down to is John Wilner throwing some cold water on the idea of Utah being an at-large team in the playoff and saying like, hey, Notre Dame's going to be a big problem there. I do agree. Notre Dame will make that a lot trickier. And Notre Dame finishes with, it's like Syracuse and Stanford. After the Pitt game. So pretty akin, I would say, to like Texas Tech's finish with UCF and West Virginia. Doubtful that they're going to lose one of those games.